Hello, welcome to More Yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. For today's thing, class, session, whatever you want to call it, you're going to need a pole of some kind. Today I dismantled our mop to use the handle, I guess it is, from that. You could use a broom. If you have a dowel will work. It doesn't have to be particularly long or this way. It doesn't have to be a certain thickness or anything. You just need that little bit of feedback. And we're going to use that to get into the fascia of the calves in particular. If we have time, we might get into the feet as well, because I don't know about y'all, but the soles of my feet have been really tight lately. So much so that I feel like it's almost bordering on plantar fasciitis, between being at home all day on a hardwood floor in bare feet and then going out in sandals. Even though I don't wear flip-flops, it still gets quite tight. So hopefully we can massage it out, because plantar fasciitis is often, not always, often from a combination of tight calves as well as the fascia on the soles of the feet, because the calf muscles attach, one of them rather, all the way underneath the heel. And right there, when I'm pressing right into it, I can feel that one particular spot. So if we're able to lengthen and lubricate the calf muscles, it should mean that the fascia and the soles of the feet will be able to move a little bit better as well. So that being said, why don't you find a seat? You can be up on a block if you have one, or a pillow, or just cross-legged, whatever feels comfortable for you. And we're going to just do a little bit of manipulation in the feet. So make sure your feet are clean enough that you don't mind putting your hands up in there. I'm going to interlace your fingers through the toes. And we've done this maybe on one other video, but you can just sort of tell if maybe it feels a little bit tighter than normal or anything like that. I kind of like bending the bottom knee just to give myself a little bit more support. And then you start working the foot. So you can point and flex the toes. You can draw circles with the feet. You can bend one way and then the other. It's all good. Really starting to mobilize into places that feel tight. Get into the ankle a little bit, so you get full ankle rotation or mobility here. And then try fingers from the top into the toes, because that can feel pretty different too. And then notice how you react to moments of intensity, because that's part of the yoga practice. Okay, and then gently disengage. Bring your hands behind your calf, and a couple little kicks or twists, just mobilizing through the knee as well. All right, and then we will switch sides. So, sorry, just starting my timer so I don't go over. Okay, take your opposite hand, opposite foot, and start from the bottom, interlacing your fingers in between the toes. And it's super normal for one side to feel way tighter than the other, for the fingers to get in deeper or less deep. Sometimes it might feel kind of deeply uncomfortable as well, and that's okay too. As long as you don't feel pain, right? Pain is not something you ever want to feel in yoga or in any sort of physical activity. Right? As soon as you feel pain, you should back off and kind of either check with someone or modify what you're doing. Okay, and then opposite hand, same foot, coming from the top of the foot. Oh man, I haven't done this one in a while, so now I know. Getting into the fascia, really like serious pointing and flexing. Okay, and then shake it out, do a couple little knee swings. Okay, let's come to hands and knees. If you have blocks or a cushion or anything like that handy, this is a good time to use it. Also, if you want to kneel up on a chip foam block or a pillow or double up your mat, this is a really good time to do that. And then you're going to grab your dowel. So we're going to get right in to the calf muscles now. Depending on how much sensation you get, you might also be able to roll the hamstrings as we're doing this. But you're going to set up with the toes tucked behind you. So that's in a long position for the fascia, right? A stretched position. And then you're going to bring the dowel all the way up behind the knees. Now this is crazy intense sometimes. So I would like you to please be very gentle with yourself. Only go as far as you need to go. But you might start to sit your butt down so that now you're pinching the dowel between the backs of your legs, right? Between the calves and the hamstrings. This might be enough for a lot of people. And right, you don't have to come all the way down, particularly if it's crazy intense. Then you could bring a block behind you and in between your heels and your bum, and that gives just that little bit of extra space so that you're not getting into the hamstrings as deep, or maybe it's just too deep a flexion on the knees, and that's fine too. If you would like a little bit more, then you can bring your hands to the dowel and kind of rock side to side. And you're probably wondering, why am I doing this right now? This is quite sensational or interesting or maybe even kind of unpleasant. What we're doing is we're cross-hatching the fibers of the muscles and the fascia to get any stickiness out of there. And every once in a while, you're going to lift up a little bit, roll the dowel down the calf a couple inches or centimeters or however you want to do this, and then keep going. We all have tightnesses in different places of the calves. For me, I find this much more intense closer to the knee than in the belly of the muscle or lower down toward the ankle. One side often more intense than the other. That's totally normal. So you're not getting a lot into the hamstrings, but a little bit, even if you lift up, right? Push down with one, lift up with the other. You get into the hamstrings a little bit. Oh, this is lovely, isn't it? So again, once you've massaged one spot, lift up, roll down, and keep going. The only place that I would like you to not do this is right on the Achilles tendon. I don't want to be responsible for encouraging any of you to do damage to that area. That's probably something that should be saved for manipulation with fingers or someone who's a little bit more competent. And when I say that, I don't mean that I'm incompetent, but it's, I'm just a yoga teacher. I'm not a massage therapist or a doctor. Lift up a little bit more, roll down. You should be getting quite close to where it gets just into sort of that feeling of the Achilles tendon. Last couple breaths. Yeah, that's as far as I'm going to go. Okay. Pause the video if you want to and keep doing this for longer if you'd like, or even just sitting. You don't have to do the rocky rock. Otherwise, I'm done. You might be done too. Gently remove the dowel off to the side and then untuck your toes and then maybe tap out the tops of the feet. Oh, yeah, that can feel quite good. And now this is going to sound kind of nuts, but it will feel really good as a release. So tuck your toes, hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. Exhale, lift the hips up and back. Downward facing dog. There we go. So now you can pedal the heels out. Right, getting a little bit of length now after we softened, right? After we mobilized the calves. In fact, I want you to bring your left foot a little bit closer into the center, pick up the right foot and hook it behind the left ankle. So now we're really getting into the calves on that left side. You can bend the knee a little bit or straighten it a little bit. And then we'll switch, opposite foot down, The heel doesn't have to touch, it might not. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be the best downward facing dog position that you've ever been in. And then last couple breaths back in, sort of a normal downward facing dog. Bend the knees a little bit. And then look to the top edge of your mat. On your exhale, walk, step, or hop forward into standing forward fold. Clasp opposite elbows with hands if you'd like to. You could sway from side to side. You might rest your elbows on your knees or your thighs. But let your head hang heavy, neck long. And if your arms are crossed, take the opposite crossing. This should also hopefully feel like a nice release after that intense calf and maybe even hamstring work. And then release your hands with your fingertips to your shins or blocks or the earth. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, let it all go. A couple more on your own time. And then bend your knees, head heavy, arms heavy. Slowly roll up to standing, one vertebra at a time. Slow as you need to go. Till eventually you come all the way up. Couple loops of the shoulders, up, back, and down. Little wiggle, release, whatever you need to release. And a couple breaths just standing at the top. All right, shake it out a little bit. Okay, and then hug the legs toward each other. A little drop, belly button to spine. Shoulder blades on your back. Make sure you're not locking the knees out. So there's still a little buoyancy in the knees, even though there's lift. On your inhale, sweep the arms up to the sky. Maybe follow with your gaze. Exhale, dive or fold down to the earth. Forward fold. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees, plant your hands flat. On your inhale, step back to plank, the top of a push-up, either from your knees or from your toes, wherever you would like to be today. Couple breaths, squeeze the bum, draw your lower ribs to the sky, squeeze the tops of the thighs, and then press the floor away a little bit more with those hands. And then look to the top edge of your mat. On your exhale, come all the way down to the earth. Little wiggle of the hips from side to side. Once you get there, untuck your toes, press the tops of the feet into the floor, so much so that you feel the kneecaps lift away from the floor, tailbone to the back while belly button to spine, back the neck long, so looking down rather than forward. Inhale, lift the heart forward and up, baby cobra. Exhale, lower it back down. Couple more. And then plant your hands again, tuck your toes, exhale, lift the hips up and back, downward facing dog. You'll notice that I step my feet in to downward facing dog, or step them forward a little bit. Especially from when I come all the way from the floor, I find a shorter stance, much more comfortable on my body. Last breath here. Bend your knees, look forward. Exhale, walk, step, or hop to the top edge of the mat. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Charge your legs. Inhale, sweep all the way up to the sky. And exhale, hands to prayer. Shake it out a little bit. Release. We might as well get into the shoulders as well. Since you have the dowel, bring it behind the back. Palms facing either back or forward, whatever works for you. If you know that one doesn't work for you, then don't do that option. Okay, I'm going to start with palms facing forward. Nice bend in the knees, elbows wrapped back toward each other, and I'm just going to fold forward. So I'm draping, you can see, draping my upper body on my bent, or on the tops of the thighs. My knees are so bent. Okay, and then head heavy. Wrap those shoulder blades toward each other, and then maybe you inhale,
lift the dowel up toward the sky. Make sure the shoulders aren't dipping forward, right? Wrap them onto the back, and then maybe you start to reach the dowel or the bar, whatever you have, to the front of your mat. You could sway a little bit from side to side. You might take a wider grip with the hands. That's great too. If you don't want to use a dowel, you can clasp your hands. Last breath here. And then gently bring the dowel back to your lower back or sacrum, and then switch the grip. If it's all right on your shoulders, you know it's okay. So I was palms facing down. Now I'm going to palms facing up. Wrap the shoulder blades toward each other, and then inhale, lift the dowel up. So you're probably getting most of the intensity here through the shoulders, the chest, but the legs are getting long, long, long. Last breath here. And then gently bring the dowel back, and then off to the side. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees, and then step back to hands and knees. So tabletop position. Little wiggle from side to side. Toes can be tucked or untucked, whatever feels better for you. And then let's just ripple through cat and cow a little bit. Lift the tailbone, hollow through the lower back. And then exhale, round through the spine. Really press your spine up to the sky. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. 2 more breaths here. All right, gently come back to center. On your inhale, I want you to step or sweep your right leg forward to the top edge of the mat. I'm just scooting that dowel off the side because we won't need it again. So, coming to half kneeling. If you have a cushion or something for your back knee, this is a really great place to use it. If you don't, you can double up your mat, but you also don't have to. And then come up to half kneeling. Shake it out a little bit. Hug the legs toward each other. Squeeze the bum on that back leg like crazy. Belly button to spine, shoulders on the back, and then shift forward into that front knee. And really squeeze the bum on that back leg so that you can open up through the hip flexors on the front leg a little bit more. You might think, what does this have to do with hamstrings and calves? Nothing really. But I feel like most of us have probably pretty tight hamstrings, so that's a good thing to do. Keep wrapping that left hip forward, draw the right hip back, squeeze the bum a little bit more. If you'd like to sink a bit deeper, you are welcome to. On your exhale, shift your hips back, extending through the front leg for half splits. So here we go, hamstrings and calves. Hands could be on hips. If you don't have anything to bring the floor up to you, you might bring your hands to blocks. Some of you, I know, will be totally comfortable with fingertips on the floor. Draw your left hip forward, wrap the right hip back, and then point and flex through those front toes. Because maybe you feel like, oh, you know, my shins could get a little bit of a stretch, then keep the toes pointed forward for a couple breaths. Maybe you get more sensation on the back of the leg with the toes peeled back, in which case, pause there. Little micro bend in that front knee. And then if your toes are pointed forward, join us with them peeling back toward the face. So flare the toes, peel them back toward the face. That big toe might press forward a little bit. And what that does is it helps prevent hyperextension at the knee. So here we go, right? Hamstrings, calves. Last couple breaths here. If you would like to go even deeper without extending the leg forward, think of squeezing the top of the thigh on that front leg to actively open the back of the knee. So there's a lot going on, lots of activations, lots of release. One more breath here.
Sweet. Inhale, rock forward into that front knee. Bring both hands inside your front foot. Heel and toe it out a little bit wider. And then keep that front foot parallel rather than turning it out today. So front foot stays parallel and hug the knee in toward the shoulder. You might spin the back shin parallel to the short edge of your mat. So give your hips a little bit more space. As you keep the hips high, exhale, melt the heart low. You might stay here. You might bring that right arm underneath the thigh, hand to the outside of the right foot. You might spread your wings. You might bind around that leg, wherever you need to go. Hips high, heart low. And then as you inhale, slowly, gently unwind. Spin your back shin back parallel to the long edge of the mat. Heel into the front foot back into neutral. And then walk your fingertips or your blocks forward. And then come into standing splits. So one of my favorite ways of getting into the hamstrings especially, really work to extend that top leg, flare the toes, squeeze the top of the thigh, and then wrap the outer left hip forward, draw the outer right hip back, and then maybe think of diving your nose toward your shin. Some of you might stay here in the stretch or the balance. If you'd like a little bit more fire today, then as you exhale, curl into a little ball, bending both knees. Inhale to lift back up. Exhale, curl. 2 more. And on your next exhale, just gently step to the top edge of the mat, standing forward fold, little wiggle, little shake, fingertips to shins, inhale, lift up partway. Exhale, let it go. On your inhale, step your right leg back. Yeah. Or, gosh, we came into that from hands and knees, so that's why we're stepping back. Well, there you go. See, that's what happens sometimes. We get confused. It's all good. Right? Yoga teachers make mistakes as well. Perhaps even more often than other people. Come on out to half kneeling, hug the legs toward each other, squeeze the bum, belly button to spine, shoulder blades on the back, and then shift into that front knee. Right? Some of you might be down quite far, resting the hands on blocks. Maybe you have the arms overhead. Right? Whatever feels good for you today. But really wrap that right hip forward as you draw the left hip back. Squeeze the bum on that right side like crazy. Ground the front heel. Last couple of breaths here. Okay, on your exhale, shift your hips back, extending through the front leg for half splits. Hands can be wherever feels comfortable for you. Little microbend on that front knee. Wrap the right hip forward, draw the left hip back, and go ahead and point and flex through those front toes. You can rock side to side on the heel. Right? Pausing wherever feels, a little bit more sensational. And then maybe we all start to peel the toes back toward the face. Little draw of belly button to spine. Maybe the big toe mound presses forward, even though you're flaring the toes and peeling them back. And then almost feel like you're trying to drag the front heel back toward you. Really active variation here of half splits. One more in. Oh no, wait. Last couple breaths if you'd like to. Think of squeezing the top of the thigh on that front leg to actively open the back of the knee. Again, notice how you react to moments of intensity. And then slowly inhale. Come back into that front knee. Heel and toe it out a little bit wider. Bring both hands inside your front foot, but keep it parallel. Hug that knee into the left shoulder. And then keeping the hips high, exhale, melt the heart low.
Maybe you feel like, yeah, I want a little bit more space, so you spin that back shin parallel to the top edge of the mat. Maybe you thread that left arm underneath the thigh, bringing your hands to the outside. Maybe you spread your wings. Maybe you bind around and that front thigh. Wherever you are, think hips high, heart low, and hug that knee in toward you. One more breath. And slowly on your inhale, unwind. Come back to center, heel into the front foot, back into neutral, and then walk your fingertips or your blocks forward. Inhale, lift the back leg high, standing splits. And then again, try not to lock out that supporting leg, so there's still buoyancy there. Energize that lifted leg like crazy, right? Squeezing the top of the thigh. When you look back, can you see the toes pointing toward the earth? This is a beautiful place to stay. Maybe you walk the hands back a little bit or toward the calf or ankle. Or, again, if you'd like a little bit more fire, exhale, curl into a little ball. Inhale, lift back up. Exhale, curl. Last one. No, let's do one last more. And then exhale, step to the top edge of the mat. Standing forward fold, little wiggle, little sway or bounce. Inhale, lift up partway. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees, plant your hands, step back to just tabletop. Little wiggle, little shake. And then take your knees wide as the mat. Toes together. Send the hips back toward the heels for child's pose. This is a really great place to bring a block or a pillow in between your bum and your heels, particularly if you feel like your hips are up quite high. And then release the forehead toward the earth. You can always stack your forehead on your fists. And slowly press yourself back up to hands and knees. Shift your hips on one side. Swing your legs forward. And then slowly roll down to the mat. You can use your hands or your forearms for support. Or maybe you do a Pilates roll down, tailbone, almost trying to lift up to the sky. And then once you're down, hug your knees into your chest. Little rock from side to side. Bring your left foot to the floor. Cross your right ankle over top of the left thigh, keeping that right ankle really active. This is a great place to stay. If you want to deepen it, you could bring a block or something underneath that left foot. Or maybe you start to pick up your legs. You can just stay here without using the hands. Maybe move around a little bit. Or if you'd like to deepen it even more, think of interlacing your hands or even a strap behind the left thigh. Try to keep the tension out of the neck and shoulders. Nice, good flex on that right ankle still. Doesn't matter what the left one's doing. And slowly release, shake it out a little bit. Bring your right foot to the floor. Left ankle crosses over top of the right thigh. Again, deepening it however you wish, whether there's a block, or maybe you pick up the legs, just using the muscles of your core for a little bit. You can draw circles or rock side to side. That can sometimes change the experience of the stretch. Maybe you interlace your hands behind the right thigh, or one hand there, one hand on the left thigh, gently pressing it away. Last couple breaths. gently unwind. Shake it out a little bit. And then take your knees wide out toward your shoulders or armpits. This is a really great place to stay. If you'd like to deepen your happy baby, then think of bringing the feet up to the sky. Shins, ideally, eventually perpendicular to the floor, but it doesn't really matter. You can grab the backs, the thighs, outside of the legs, the ankles, or the feet. It's like, imagine that you're in a deep squat, but you just get to be on your back instead of on your feet. So, you might rock side to side. Maybe you interlace your fingers between your toes again. So it's kind of like how we started. And then gently release. If there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, please feel free to take it. And then I start to think about where you'd like to go for your rest, whether it's flat on your back, legs bent, or straight. You could rest on your side, or in child's pose, or in a seated meditation, wherever you feel like you'll be at ease. And then once you've found your pose of rest, for 3 breaths, inhale deeply through your nose. Exhale, sigh. And breath away. Couple more. And then let go of all breath control. Any last muscle gripping or tension. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a lovely rest of your day. Namaste.